being raised in the church, being at the church, doesn't
Yeah.
mean you have a personal connection with God.
Right. You know, I was like, I don't want to be a pastor. They don't get paid enough. I've seen the politics of church. I've seen how hurt it is.
It's
Yeah.
amazing how God will close doors, and
Yep.
and it confirms that God has the power to close the doors.
We have a beautiful revelation of God. We have a beautiful revelation through our beliefs as a church of,
Young people want to belong to something that makes a difference.
yeah.
And if they find somebody that cares for them, young people want to belong to something that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And if they find somebody that cares for them, listen, I have no shame. I love being Adventist. I am here today with actually a very good friend of mine, so I'm really excited about this. But what is interesting is that even though we know each other for a long time,
Mhm.
I think this is the first time we're going to sit down, talk,
I
and
think
get to know each other.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
We usually are with a big group of people. So I think this is the first time it's actually us two talking.
Yes, yes. So I'm actually really excited about this. So this is
Yeah,
my
me too.
friend, Pastor Sebastian Lopez.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
And we actually, just to give a little background context here, we did our undergrad bachelor's degree together.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Did we do the seminary together too?
I think,
forgot
yeah, I
again.
think we did. I'm pretty sure, think we did. Yeah. Cause I remember we talked, yeah, we
Yes,
talked about,
yes,
we
yes,
did.
yes. We talked
'Cause
about
we,
the
yeah, the
dog
dog,
and how,
the
yes,
dog.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So we
yes.
did do seminary. Yeah.
Yes. So Sebastian became like a close friend and one of my adopted
Mhm.
kids,
Yep.
because at undergrad especially, I was pretty much one of the oldest person there. Everybody was like 19, 20, 20
Right.
something. In seminary, everybody has different ages, but in
Mhm.
undergrad, I was the oldest, so I became everybody's mom. I got to see Sebastian and his wife before they got married. Then they got married. Now
Right.
they have a little baby
We have a
that
little
is so
baby.
cute. But even though it sounds like I know a lot, I still don't know a lot about you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to start from the beginning. Tell us who you are.
Mhm. Yeah, so I am Sebastian. I was born and raised in South Texas, McAllen, Texas, right by the border with Mexico. So we had great Mexican food always. So it's very hard to compare it to other places whenever I go either to Tennessee, Florida, even Michigan. But born and raised in South Texas.
Are you Mexican descendant, or what is your
Yeah.
descendant?
So I'm half
Yes.
Mexican, half Argentinian. And so that's why
Oh,
I don't think
okay.
we were always very close friends because
No,
you're
no.
Brazilian. So
Argentinians, there is no way that
yeah,
could happen.
there's no way. Yeah. So there's actually a Brazilian pastor here in Jacksonville where we're at. And we always joke that we take pictures together and he says it's only because of the grace of God that a Brazilian and Argentinian can be together. So
Exactly.
but yeah, so like you said, I went to academy my whole life, born and raised in the church. At some point my senior year, going into my freshman year of college, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and had the call or had the desire, and we can maybe talk about whatever, but just had a push or an inkling that God wanted me to be in
Okay, no,
ministry somewhere.
you're going too fast. You're jumping too much.
Okay.
Okay,
So
let's go back. Let's go back.
Okay. So but pretty much
Okay.
I'm a
So-
pastor. I work at Jacksonville at the moment, and we are transitioning actually to Kettering College in Ohio to be the college chaplain and the campus director of campus ministries there.
Okay,
So that's in a nutshell. I know I jumped ahead.
Yeah. So this is called Tea Talks for a reason. We get into
okay.
the tea,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
okay, so you
What's the tea?
said, what is the tea? That's what I need to know. What is the tea?
What's the tea?
So
Yeah.
you said you were born in the church. How about your
Right.
parents? Were they already Christians?
Yeah. So they were, my parents were Adventists as well.
Mhm.
I actually come from a long lineage of Adventists. I'm not sure how far. I do know my grandparents, my grandfathers on both my mom and my dad's side, their fathers were pastors. And so my mom's side in Argentina was a missionary pastor, and he went to Bolivia, Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, Peru, and so
Oh,
they were
wow.
all over. And so then they were mostly in Argentina after that, but he was a missionary all over. My grandmother from my dad's side, his father was as well a pastor and kind of a missionary pastor. And we just found out actually in the GC, we saw a picture of him that was he was one of the delegates that was invited from Mexico to be to one of the GC sessions where they were trying to expand into more global outreach and whatnot.
So GC,
So
GC,
yeah,
for those that are
sorry.
listening that might not know, GC is the
Yeah,
general
yeah.
conference that happens every 5 years for our
Hmm.
denomination. So I didn't know you were a PK, pastor's
Well,
kid. That's another thing that I had to learn what
yeah,
was too.
PK. Yeah. So I'm a PK grandkid, if that makes sense. So my parents were both PKs, but my parents are not.
Oh,
Yeah, my
got
parents.
it. It
Yes,
was your grandparents that
yeah, my
were
grandparents were.
pastors.
Yeah, my grandparents were
Got
pastors,
it. Got it.
and my dad was actually a dentist, and my mom went to
Mhm.
school for nursing and education, but she helped
Okay.
manage my dad's clinic. But there's always been that missionary or ministry feel, and so some of the family, my uncle's a pastor. He's probably the closest kin or family that's currently working as a in that role in ministry. But my dad was a dentist. I have a lot of dentists and nurses in the family, so there's always either medicine or ministry. All right, and so those were the
Okay.
two
Okay. Okay.
options.
That's the only thing.
That's the only thing we could do.
And
Yeah,
as a pastor, you know that those are the only things, like your wife
exactly.
has to
Yeah,
be a nurse or you can
correct. Yeah.
upgrade to a doctor.
Yeah, so my wife's a physical therapist, so I upgraded a little bit, but I always joke
Exactly.
that,
Exactly.
and this is, I guess, just a Southern joke for, in Tennessee, the school we went to, that, that's where you find your spouse. But I always joke that I had to go to a different university to find my spouse, so I got ripped
There you go.
off.
There you go.
And,
There you go. Wait, you guys
but
were already dating in your undergrad?
yeah, well, we started dating officially my second year in Southern, yeah.
Oh,
But we
okay.
were,
Got
yeah,
it.
yeah, my second year in Southern, my sophomore year.
What I was gonna ask you, but you were not really a PK. You were PG. That makes no
Yeah.
sense. A
Uh,
pastor's grandchild. Was it
yeah.
still like a little pressure growing up for, like a lot of the PKs complain
Hmm.
that there is so much of that pressure to live in a certain way
Yeah.
because you are a child of a pastor. As a grandchild, it may not have been so much. How
Yeah.
was it
Yeah.
for you?
Not as much. I don't think the pressure was as much from my grandparents, because my mom's side lived in Argentina, so we'd only see them maybe once a year.
Mhm.
From my dad's side, at that point when I was a child, my grandfather had transitioned from pastoral ministry to being a dentist as well.
Oh, your
Even though,
grandfather.
yeah, my
Okay.
grandfather. So he was a pastor for a number of years, and then he went into dental work. But he was always
Oh.
building. He started a lot of churches in South Texas, and he was a pioneer in that too. But it was more, I think, the pressure from my family was very involved with the church. So we were used to always being the last ones to leave the church, which happens today too as a pastor, right?
Never changed.
Never changed. So I guess I was prepped my whole life. But there was
Yeah.
always this like, oh, you're the son of Arturo and Sonia. Like there was always this pressure that my parents were people that were very involved with
Mm,
ministry. My mom was the
mhm.
organist of the church. My dad was involved with music. We always did a lot of music, especially. And so very involved in church board and this and that. And so when they saw us, they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
you were kind of not put in a pedestal, but there was always expectations.
Mhm.
Not like a pastor's kid per se, but there was always expectations. And I
Because they were
remember,
still leaders in the church.
yeah, and I remember
Mhm.
being upset because I had teachers. I went to academy too that was connected to our church, and if we got in trouble, they would say, "Well, we know your family, and
You
you should do better." And I
you
was like,
should do better.
I want to be a kid and mess up like my friends. They can mess up, get in trouble, but me, oh yeah, we need to talk because hey, blah blah blah. So it was annoying to hear that growing up, and I'm sure not the same as PK, but in some way, some similarities.
And that's where I wanted to get into a little bit more.
Hmm.
Was there, I know you were raised in the church, but being raised in the church, being at the church, doesn't
Yeah.
mean you have a personal connection with God.
Right. Right.
So, was there a moment in your life that you got distance, that you had questions, you doubted? Was there a moment like that for you?
Yeah. Of course. I think I always enjoyed church because of the friends, because of what we get to do. I loved music, and I grew into that more into my high school time. But my parents were involved, so we would sing a lot and help out. And that was kind of a tag in, or a segue into making faith my own and wanting to go into ministry. But yeah, there was definitely times. The main time I remember was my transition from high school to college, and I think we see it a lot, right?
Mhm.
When you're going to college, it's a time when you're finally maybe away from home, making your own decisions, whatever you want to do, what you want to believe. And I was dating a girl at that time, my senior year of high school, not same religion, but she was great. She was an amazing girl. And had a lot of affection for her. But I saw that our families were very different, the trajectories of our lives, and then especially feeling God wanting me to go into ministry. I was like, I don't know if it was, just our families, our ways of life, what we enjoy doing, how we live, if that coincides or connects with. And at that point, right, as I'm kind of growing into my own faith, and so we broke up, and that was a very challenging thing because it was the first time that it was like God speaking. Unfortunately, I was what we say in Spanish, like a mujeriego. I was always talking to girls growing up. So that was
I
always
cannot believe
yeah,
that.
of course. How could you? There's no way I would. Yeah, but yeah, I was bad, and that leads even to just Chantal didn't like me at all. Right, that's my wife now, Chantal. She hated me. She had heard stories about me. So
We're
I
gonna have
had
to get into that tea as well. But
yeah. So we
anyways.
pretty much I had dated a lot of girls, and it was this last one. Where when I broke up with her because I had just come back from a mission trip, I didn't know what it was, but I knew okay, God's calling me, and we just don't align. There was that where we were out of sync per se. And so we broke up, and that was like very hard for me because I finally realized how my actions would hurt the people that I loved and myself. And I remember it was actually coming back my first semester of Southern. I went home for one of the breaks, and I got with all my friends. It was so bad that my family had bets about that I would bring a new girl to Thanksgiving dinner. That's how bad it was. My friends too, even my ex girlfriend at that point, right? We had talked a little bit, right? Kind of closuring and stuff. She thought I was talking. It was just bad. And I was like, no, I really want I feel God is calling. I really want to just be single for at least a year. And that was a big test for
I
everyone. They're
see.
like,
Now that I'm finding
wow.
this new side of you, I can
Yeah.
see
So
that.
they were like, wow, you went a whole year without talking to anyone. Like, that's crazy. But I came home, and this is a big, big story, but I came
No,
home
no,
and
but that's the tea. That's the
that's the
tea we
tea.
want to know.
That's the tea, right? And Vivian, if you're watching, I appreciate you. Vivian is pregnant. She's about to have a baby. So we follow each other. So she's great. I mean, we had, it was an amazing time. We both grew a lot. I learned a lot about myself. And one thing I'll say, and finish the story here is, we talk about the Bible says not don't be unequally yoked, right? And I think sometimes we say it's between religions. I think it also can be in between the same religion. You can have someone that really doesn't align.
I agree with
And
that.
we aligned, I think, as a couple. She was changing a lot for me and kind of trying to have a relationship with God. We weren't the same faith. But I saw how different our families were, the values of our families. Not that those can't be reconciled in some way, but I was like, man, ministry is such a hard thing. I've seen it, I've been a part of it. And to have already extra things that can already be issues, I was like, this is going to be hard. But she's changed it. She started coming to church. She stopped doing things. She started doing these things. But I noticed that I was sacrificing kind of my own spiritual life
Mm,
so that she could start one and have one, right?
mm.
And that was hard, right? Because if I'm over here because of the years of being in the church and knowing church language and culture, and she's starting from scratch, like I got to kind of either slow down or pause my journey, right? So she can kind of catch up. And it can happen, right? People do that all the time. But for us,
Sure.
it was just, it just, so we broke up, and it was very hard. And I went first semester, I came back, and we saw each other. Long story short, we kind of had that epic movie moment, right? Like the final goodbye. And I saw her. We weren't planning to see each other. It was a little awkward, but I was like, hey, I've heard that you think that I'm talking to someone or was talking to girls, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I still love you. Like I still have feelings for you. And it's hard for me to be around you. It's hard because I'm trying to move on. And I know she was praying for the relationship. It was very messy. And we had our final like embrace, and I walked away very heartbroken and very hurt that time. And this was months after our breakup. So I remember driving home, and that was the first time I was really upset at God.
Mm.
And so I'm driving. It's like like the movie scene. You're driving, crying, hitting the steering wheel, upset because I felt the hurt. And then I saw a girl that we had, an amazing time together. We really had a deep affection for each other, that I had hurt her, and seeing her cry and broken really broke me too. And that was me that started this journey to figure out who God was,
Mm.
if this is something I want. It was at the same time that I'm trying to figure out. It was undecided my first semester of college, so I didn't know. So I was kind of in between pre-dentistry or
Ministry.
theology. Yeah, so I took intro to ministry with Dr. Tryon, and I think
Mm-hmm.
there was a teacher right before that was leaving, and that was the first time Dr. Tryon was doing. So we did that retreat, which was just there was a lot of things that semester. There was not one point that was like go to ministry. There
I'm
was
trying
just
to remember if you were in my class. What year did you take
I
that
don't think so.
class?
It was 11.
No,
Yeah, I think
mine
yeah.
was 14.
Yeah, I think yeah. So I think I was a couple courses maybe ahead, but then I took a
Mm-hmm.
year off. But nonetheless, yeah, so that sparked the first time that I was like really questioning God and upset at God, but I felt that I could do that and be in a safe space, right? So there was
Mm-hmm.
something about my upbringing that allowed me to question God. Lots of times we grew up thinking that we can't do that. But that was the first time I was really real with God and just really screaming and crying and frustrated. And I didn't get an answer that night, or it took a couple of weeks, but it was different things, conversations. I remember seeing David Asher did a series in Oakwood about God's love and different key points like that that God spoke. And it was just a realization that I needed something this big to wake me up from my actions, that it could have led me to something deeper or into a
Mm-hmm.
situation that I didn't want to be in, and derailed maybe this trajectory I was on. And God still can work with that, but it was kind of awakening, like, hey, your actions do have consequences, and you're hurting yourself and others. So that was the pinpoint in college where it was my come to Jesus, and then I started hanging out with people and growing, and so that's where I think where it became mine. I had always
Mm.
appreciated church, going to hanging out with friends, the activities, the campouts, the different things we had. I enjoyed it. Those my friends at Academy, where most of my friends were also at the church, so we hung out every single day. I love it. But college was the first time where that decision started making. I started making that decision for myself. Yeah.
I love that you're sharing that because the whole point for this, not only this, the Tea Talks conversation
Yeah.
podcast, but
Yeah.
also the online church that I do, because this is what I think young people need to understand. And it's one of the topics for the online church is following Jesus with our emotions.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think that to be a faithful Christian, we have to hide our feelings.
Yeah. That's good.
And it's like, it's a waste of your time because God knows you.
Hmm.
So if you're mad at him, be honest.
Right.
And from what you're describing is what I believe. It's like when you're honest about your feelings, when you actually verbalize, when you put a name, I am mad.
Hmm.
God help me through
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
phase. It helps you grow so much more. Then if you like pretending nothing is happening, try to hide, you're not facing head on. And that's
Hmm.
why we don't grow,
Yeah. Yeah.
or we get stuck, or it's more built into more frustrations and disappointments down the line. So
Hmm.
you needed
Hmm.
to face that to be able to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
But as you're sharing, basically you're mixing, I mean, not mixing in the sense of it looks like it happened at the same time. So you
Yeah.
are having questions about relationship and feeling and God, but it looks like you already felt God called to ministry at this
Yeah.
point because you're
Yeah.
already thinking about that. How was it specifically like, I wanted to go into ministry?
I don't know. That's a great question. You know what, Chris? And I'll tell you, and I'm kind of ashamed about it. And I don't know if you find yourself doing that, but I feel like I have to be more intentional in inviting others into ministry.
Mm.
I don't know. I don't know. Not that I've been hesitant. This is a side note, nothing to do with that. But yeah.
I
So if you're out there and you're thinking about it, do it. I will say this, right? Growing up and being even in school, sometimes you only hear of ministry being a pastoral role. And when you begin to go into pastoral ministry or just ministry in general, you begin to see that there are so many avenues for ministry, right? You can do not just schools and the armed services or universities,
Hospital, university,
hospitals.
yes.
You can work in, educate. There's so many options for ministry. So if you have a heart, but you're like, I don't like dealing with people in this, there's always a space for it. But pretty much I was always comfortable in church. Church was like a second home. So there was one hurdle that people have of being in the building that I didn't have. I enjoyed it. We were always here. It was part of life. We knew most days we were at church for different reasons. Um, then I went to school and I grew and started getting involved in student association, and was helping out in leadership roles. I didn't learn till that class, Intro to Ministry. When I look back, we had to chart our life You begin to
Mhm.
see like, oh man, God is truly preparing me for something. And I'll say this, I think when I got to when I got to college, I know I'm jumping around, but when I got to college, it felt like there was only two routes I could take at that point in my faith with Jesus, in my journey, in my the pressure. My dad had his own clinic as a dentist. My brother's a dentist as well, but he had moved away. So my dad said, "You go to dental school, you have a practice. It's all yours. I'm going to retire." So I'm like, man, money. Like, wow. I was like, I don't want to be a pastor. They don't get paid enough. I've seen the politics of church. I've seen how hurt it is. They move them.
Let me put a little pause there.
Yeah.
The pastors in our denominations don't make money.
Right. Right. That's yeah. Right.
Some denominations they do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some are
Go
like,
on.
I got 3, 4 private jets. Yeah. We don't make money. Right. And I think
We don't make money.
it's a cool checks and balances in the
Yes.
sense of, but yeah, it'd be nice to be paid a little bit more. But, um, yeah, so there was a lot of like, I don't want to do this, but being in those leadership roles early on in high school, I was also involved on stage a lot. So I was in front of people. We would do a lot of plays or started playing music. And so I played piano, guitar, started learning how to do that, got involved and plugged in afternoon programs at church. And so was very involved leading in that way, being behind the mic, growing in that. I was very timid as a baby, and so growing in that. So then in high school, we started a youth church with some friends, and we would lead the service once a month. And I was in charge of the music, my friend in charge of the preaching, my other friend in terms of snacks and the equipment and all that. And once a month, we were doing and so it was things that you don't think about in the moment, but afterwards,
Mhm.
you're like, wow, we have this experience to lead and organize, that I think now looking back, I could have used in many different trajectories of life, right? But at that moment, right, as I got closer to my senior year, I had no idea. But at that my mind was like, okay, something about ministry. I like music. I like being with people. I've enjoyed being around church. It feels kind of like home, and because it's just been home. And there was this pool, but I didn't know what it was and where it was. So my senior, I think my summer when I broke, it was a lot happened. I went on a mission trip. I broke up with my girlfriend. I think I preached for the first time, and it was this feeling of like, whoa, I'm saying things that I didn't even know I could say. Like this is it felt like a Holy Spirit moment. And I was like,
Wait, we went to Brazil together, didn't we?
no, no, no.
You didn't go to Brazil? Oh.
No, I heard about Brazil, but I went to,
It was a
I, w-
traumatic it was a
yeah,
traumatic
it's
event.
traumatic. Yeah. I heard about it. So I'm glad we went to South Carolina,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
think we
yeah,
had a better time, because of the people that were there, but
yeah. Sorry
we'll
sorry
leave
for
it there.
those watching, this is just a side note here.
So yeah, so I preached for that. I think it was the first time officially, and there was something about it was very exhilarating. I was like, wow, this is good. So getting to Southern, I had no idea, undecided. Took one semester of biology and one semester of I was taking intro to ministry to see what ministry was all about. Did the personality test. I texted friends. I was like, "Hey, what do you see me as?" People were like, "Hey, business, dentistry." One friend was like, "I would never see you like you can't be a pastor. Like literally, you would never be a pastor." I was like, "I appreciate that. Yeah." But just the people, it was just. I wish there was a moment and a pinpoint place but it was just the people I started hanging out with that first
It
semester.
was a progression.
It was a progression of steps. And I look
Mhm.
back and I'm like, I can't point one moment. It was just they all kind of added up onto each other. And I think Intro to Ministry was a big one that culminized it. We went out there, we documented, we charted our life, which is really cool. And regardless, if you're listening and you're trying to figure out what to do with life, or just want to see if God has been leading or with you, to be able to point all the good times, when your grandma passed, when your dad passed, when you failed this, and then you see all the good times when you passed that. And you see how it's kind of like there's these moments where God is preparing you or he's turning things that are bad into good. So it's cool to document that and chart it and be like, wow, like God has been preparing me in some way with these skills that I need to become a pastor and go into this role. And so I remember going out to pray, and maybe we've done this too. We had moments where we had to go pray and connect with God, and I'm praying, and I went under like this little place that there was like a little crack of light coming, and I'm like, this is perfect. God's gonna reveal, right? He's gonna speak, he's gonna say it, make it clear. I just want to say, go into ministry. And I'm waiting and nothing, right? I'm praying, I'm like, God, come on. And so then I turn into, I think it was Psalm 118. And pretty much what it was, I think the psalmist says something along the lines of, the Lord will fulfill his purpose for you. something like that. So I just got an overwhelming sense of peace, and I was like, okay, okay. And it was just this sense that, okay, I think this, as I've been, it was no magical moment. I wish it was. It was just like, I've been thinking this, and I really sense that what I'm seeing, the conversations I'm having, learning about myself, it's leading to ministry as opposed to dentistry. But I had done dumb stuff too. I also took a practice dental entrance exam, a DAT, right? You know how like the LSAT for lawyers
Mhm,
or
mhm.
the MCAT. So I was like, oh, this is my test, God. If I fail the practice, and I was like, of course, I'm going to fail it. I haven't taken chemistry, biology, any of the core classes. So I took it, failed it. I was like, this is
That's
clearly not for
that's
me.
a that's an answer from God.
Yeah. So there was times like that. I was like, hey, was that really?
Was really
Was
God's
that really?
answering.
Yeah. But I remember going to the library and I was like, it's Sunday morning. I'm going to take the test, and this will, if God wants me, he's going to supernaturally make it happen. I was like, all right, closed door. I was like, okay, maybe not the smartest thing, but there was many things like that helped. And so then I declared, and I changed my major. But then going back home, my dad was really, he had seen how hard, because of a peak, as he was pastor's kid, right? His dad,
So
he
your dad is the traumatized one.
yeah, so my mom had a good experience, but my dad, just seeing the politics, the effect they had on his dad, the relationship with his dad and mom, like, it was just a lot. And so he said his main line was always be your own boss. So he had his own clinic as a dentist, be your own boss, set your own hours. He's like, and then that's why he wanted dentistry. He's like, medical doctors, they have to be on call, do something where you don't have to be on, so that was always his thing. And so when I told him, hey, I'm going to go be a pastor, I'm going to declare to be, theology major, he said, okay, but you're going to switch back to dentistry. No worries. So it took like a year or two for him to finally realize. It was always like, think about it, and God worked with him, and he was very excited afterwards and very supportive ever since then. And so yeah, so it was just a lot of different, I think, our personal hurdles too, because I was going through who I am, right? Everyone thinks I'm just
Mhm.
dating a lot of girls, and I really want to connect. So that was a year to prove myself to myself and others, right? That I'm different. I'm trying to, but it was hard because I'm trying to grow, and everyone's like, no, he's gonna date. Don't worry. So there was
He's
this
gonna
whole,
fail.
yeah, he's gonna fall. He's gonna fail. There's my family has a bet, and I'm like, oh man. He's like, I'll give you $500 by the end of the year if you stay single, things like that. And I was like, yeah. So there was a lot of, but there was I think it was the Holy Spirit really working in me. To, okay, this is not external, this is internal. Something's driving me to this. And yeah, so yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
the
it's
long
it's
story.
it's funny you started at the beginning that you said at the beginning of this part here, you said that
Yeah.
I do not make an intention to invite people into ministry.
Yeah.
And I have a very different experience than yours for sure, because being a
Yeah.
female passes a whole nother level of problems.
Oh, for sure.
But I also like when I hear people talk, like young people, young ladies
Uh-huh.
saying, "Oh, I want to I want to go into ministry." I'm like, so,
Really?
but at the
Yeah.
same time, I'm like, but if that's what God wants her to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
but how do I help her? But at the same time, I know I'm
Be
wrong
real
because,
about it. Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to be real about it. I want them to go into ministry, but I want them to have the correct expectations. But I
Yeah.
still want them to go. But the problem is, sometimes we're so overwhelmed with everything that is happening to us that we're just
Yeah.
gonna pour all of that negativity that is just gonna make worse.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
another thing that you mentioned about, like, you were waiting for that miracle moment, God
Mm-hmm.
opened the door and
Mm-hmm.
telling you exactly what it is. Yeah, that's another lesson that I learned as well. I am not doing those things anymore because I was
Yeah.
literally like, God, if this is what you want to happen, make this happen. And it didn't happen. And then I
Right.
was like, okay, let me ask the opposite. So then I will confirm that that's not what God wants. And I would hear nothing. And that
Right.
shook my faith
Mm-hmm.
because it was like, first of all, I was a new Christian
Mm-hmm.
and not hearing either side. I was like, is God really here?
Right. Right.
And
Right.
that started. And then I was like, you know what? I have had, by this point, I had converted already. I already had my God moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, God has showed to me very clear the power that he has. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to let my desires for him to make a miracle for me to put doubt about him.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that if God opens the door, I am going to go through it. So
That's it. Yeah.
that's how I made it, as far as not asking for signs. And there are things you don't need to ask for signs.
Right.
Do you need to ask for signs to say, oh, should I go into ministry? Yes, we are all called to ministry.
Right.
What
It
kind
just
of
in what way?
ministry,
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
what way, it's a different thing. But there are certain things that you don't have to ask, you know.
Yeah.
But it's so amazing, even in ministry. Like sometimes there were tough periods that I had that I thought
Mhm.
of quitting, and or I thought of moving, and everything that I did, like to find a different call, God closed the
Blocked it.
doors.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was great because now I'm in a position, and the leadership that I have, I absolutely love them. So it's
Yeah.
amazing how God will close doors, and
Yep.
it confirms that God has the power to close the doors.
Yeah.
So at
Yeah.
this point, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go through it. If it opens, I
Mhm.
go through. If it closes,
Right.
it's not for me.
Yeah.
But we
Agreed.
need to get into one more tea before we move into the second part of this
Okay.
conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell me about you and your wife. How'd you guys
Uh-oh.
meet?
Yeah, so we we both went to academy. She was in
That was
North
in
Texas,
Texas, yeah.
yeah, but it was
Hmm.
different. She was in North Texas, I was in South, so about 8 hours apart. But we met at summer camp, and so we were the academies in Texas did a lot of retreats together. All the academies in Texas, so at least once, 4 times a year, you're having, whether it be a basketball tournament, a music festival. There's leadership retreats for the student association and different stuff. So we saw each other maybe here and there. I don't remember much about her. My first interaction is when we were working at summer camp together. So we were campers, and I sang with a couple of people from my cabin, my counselors, and two friends, and she came up and said, that sounded good. That was our first interaction, and I don't remember that, but she said that. Then a couple years later, we were at a leadership retreat, and our bus had left us. We had all gone to a dinosaur exhibition place, and the only car left was the car that Chantal was in, which is really funny to see. And so they were like, "Hey, you going back to camp? Yeah, can you give us a ride?" So we were in the same car, and there's a picture there of that time, and we're very, very young, and we just have no idea that later on we would be married, right? So it was just really cool. But then we got to college. I mean, to summer camp. We started working at camp, and that's where we started connecting. At that point, though, she did not like me because of my track record. She also was rooming or had been roommates with a girl I had dated for a couple of months. So we had dated at summer camp too, and we broke up like 2, 3 months after. For me, it was like, I just long distance. I can't do this. Blah blah blah. For her, it was just we're all good now, and I don't want to say, I don't want to put it. I know I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but we broke up, right, and that was it. So Chantal had this view of who I was based on that, and so how she, I was very outgoing, connecting with people, and so I'm there, and I thought it was all that, and I think I did have it. I was learning to be more
Total
humble.
player.
Yeah, so I was learning to even talk to girls because I was so used to always flirting and this and that. And it would get me in trouble sometimes, even when I was trying to change, because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm being too friendly. I can't do that. And so yeah, so we started talking. We started getting to know each other. She was not a type of girl that I would have gone for eventually. Initially, I was not the type that she would go for either. But just what united us was actually we met with some friends, and we talked about. I was talking out in the group about my call to ministry and feeling that God wanted me. So that
Hmm.
kind of impressed her. We talked another time about we wanted to be missionaries. I wanted to be a missionary. She's like, "Oh, me too." So I was like, "Oh, okay, this is interesting." So we were both kind of in that journey of like figuring out, feeling that God is calling us. Another conversation that we were in the same group that they asked her, "Hey, would you ever marry a pastor?" And she said, "I would." And I was like, "Oh, okay," because it's very hard to find people that know what pastors do. And so, so then we started talking, and she was the counselor for my sister. So she was really close to my sister. It was the first girl that had ever been very close to my sister, or even close to my sister at that point than I was. And so that was really cool for me. So yeah, that's kind of how it was. This different moment. Again, not a single moment, not even love at first sight type thing. It was just we grew into love,
Hmm.
and that end of that summer, we had feelings for each other. We were afraid to say it. I couldn't even say it. Usually, I was really good with words, and there I was like, did you hear about what I?" And she's like, "I did." So what we decided was, I think it was her choice, her desire was, let's be friends for a year and get to know each other, because we really don't. Right now, we're going off of summer camp and the vibes and the fun, and
The
we feel God
emotion
here.
of
The
this,
motion, right?
there's an expression in English that the summer love, something like
Well,
that.
we
I don't
call it
know.
we would call it camp goggles, right? Where
Oh.
You get to somewhere in the first week, you see someone, you're like, oh, no way. But by week 5, because it's the only people you see, you're like, wait a minute, Sarah? Okay, I didn't know, you know. And so we would call that camp goggles. And a
I
lot of
didn't even
people,
know that was a thing, but makes
yeah.
complete sense because you go
So
through a summer camp, you go through so much
you go through so much,
that the
and
people
then
that you become friends, you become really close
yeah, so you become
friends.
really good friends. But not just that, you haven't seen the outside world in a bit, and you're like, that girl that didn't look pretty now, she's the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And then you leave, and you're like, what was I thinking, right? So there was that camp goggles. So we were like, just to make sure it's not camp goggles, let's get to know each other. So that's when it was my second year going into Southern. So we were what we called each other best friends, BFFWI, best friends with intention. So we were
I
looking
love
back,
it. I love it.
we were kind of exclusive, but we didn't call each other boyfriend or girlfriend because we wanted to talk. We were both coming out of really emotionally um emotional relationships and bad breakups, and it was very interesting how those aligned with our, and so we were like, we don't want to just date to date anymore. We're dating with the intention to marry. I want to talk to whoever girl this is, to her dad and stuff like that. And so that's what it was. Yeah, so it was a moment, a season of proving to ourselves, because God knows our heart, but it was proving to ourselves, hey, I can withhold from rushing into a relationship that doesn't define me. And so yeah, we talked for a whole
That is
year.
so good. That alone, there's so much we can talk about it to help other
Yeah,
young
yeah,
people understand that.
yeah, yeah.
And I love that you guys made that decision. I think nobody forced on you
No, no,
guys.
no. It
No.
was, yeah, and it was kind of like we had to make that because of how hurt we had been in those previous relationships. We were like, we don't want to repeat this, right? And so it was kind of like it's a necessity. And maybe whoever's listening to this is thinking of themselves or others in that situation. But sometimes you got to hit rock bottom, and to really be like, oh man, yeah, I can't continue like this. So yeah,
A-
yeah,
and sometimes you just need that break. I think the biggest mistakes that we
yeah.
have is that we go, and I'm talking about my past, okay?
No, me too, me
Before
too.
I came to Christ, before I understood my values,
Yeah,
I would go from one broken relationship to another broken relationship to another broken relationship
yeah,
without even realizing. And especially, and I think this is a lot from the South American personality
hmm,
because especially in Brazil and not knowing God, not going to church or anything like that,
yeah,
it's so normal for us to first of all, we are always going out, we are always with friends, the
hmm.
community relationships,
It's very
not
big.
only like dating, I'm talking about like being with friends. Like I went to Brazil at the beginning
Hmm.
of this year, and okay, it was the end of the year, and the end of the year has more parties because the families are getting together.
Right.
But I got exhausted. I was like,
Yeah.
man, they never stop. They go to a party every single day, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's Brazilians. So
Hmm.
then it translates also to actually romantic relationships because as we are
Just the
in the
energy, the vibe
yes,
of yeah,
the
yeah.
culture is so much into relational
Hmm.
that you don't take a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
This person broke up with me, I need to find the next person, or
Yeah.
you and it's constant like that. I know it's not like that for every culture, but
Yeah.
that's something that I start paying attention, and like family that I have now and other young people that I talk to, and I'm
Hmm.
like sometimes not trying to shame anybody because you're a
Yeah.
player, it's just like
You got to
maybe
slow
a
down.
break would be a good thing for you to
Yeah.
even know what you want in the other person.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Sometimes we don't even know ourselves, much less what we
Hmm.
want somebody else.
Yeah. And that happened with us. I used to say, I don't say it as much now because I don't know if it's 100% true, but I used to say it was when I stopped searching that I found what I needed. Right.
So
So
romantic.
so yeah, but I don't think it's necessarily true that, it's because a lot of people have not been searching. They're like, I've never found anything. So I was like, I get that, right? But at least
Yeah.
for me, to your point, it was always like, who's next? What's going on? I'm looking at the timeline, like, I don't even know how I fit these relationships and not overlap. They probably, so it's unfortunately that was the situation. But yeah, for me, it was a break that I needed for myself. But it was, as you can see, my story, everything kind of comes together at one point. My career, my love life, my faith, all of that was coming out at the same moment, poof, in that first year of college, and then moving on, growing from that. Who am I? What am I going to do? Who do I want to do life with? Do I want to do life with anybody, right? Or do I want to be single?
Mhm.
What does that look like? So yeah, we did that. And then we started dating. Our first year of dating, we were actually both missionaries. So we went out. I was in Poland, she was in Turkey, and that was our first year, official year of dating. And
Oh,
so, yeah, yeah. So we did long distance relationship. We were a very different from normal, abnormal couple because we did almost 4 years of long distance dating.
wow.
Yeah, and that's something I never thought I would be able to do, and I wouldn't
Where
recommend
while
that
you
long.
were at Southern, where was she?
She was at Andrews. So she went to Andrews.
Oh.
She graduated a year before me. She was a year ahead. And so she was already at Andrews. We would see each other at summer camp. That's the time when we would spend most time together. And then when I was at Southern, we went out to be missionaries. That was our first year. And then there was a lot of there again, there's always moments. It feels like you just have to stop at some point, but there's always moments where you're praying and God, what's so now the next prayer thing was I know what I'm doing with life. I'm in ministry in some way. It's gonna hopefully gonna be a pastor. Who's to, now it's changing, right? But you never know. But now it's like, okay, Chantal's at Andrews, the seminaries there. Makes sense to just transition. Let's go to Southern. Let's go to Andrews. And I'm praying over it. It'd be nice to continue. I don't know if I can be in a long distance relationship. That's hard. And so God opened up a door at Southern to work with campus ministries. And
Mm,
I was like, how do I know this is God, right? And so talking and so just praying and again having a moment of prayer and saying, God, I'm worried, I'm stressed. And I remember this was one of those times I was by the beach and literally felt like a gust of wind embraced me in a way. And so it was this like it felt like a supernatural, again, not an answer, but just say, I'm with you. You're okay. And so I was like, hey, Chantal, I'm sorry, but I really think this is a good opportunity for growth. I love missions. And I don't know. It sucks. It sucks to have to not go to Andrew. So I stayed at Southern, worked 2 years there. My last 2 years of I worked with campus ministries, which now looking to where I'm transitioning to now, really
makes
set
so
me up
much
for
sense.
now.
Yes,
But that was
yes.
what Tony for it's almost 10 years ago. I would have not never known. It was a great experience in learning and managing. But now took me almost 6 years in ministry, pastoral ministry, to see, okay, oh, now the experience I had in campus ministries, now I can apply it here as a campus ministry
I
director.
I find it amazing
So,
how God puts
yeah,
everything that we need, like, to wire us, to
yeah,
teach us what we're gonna need. I love that.
yeah.
And this is a very good segue for the next thing I wanna talk to you about.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
now you transition from pastoral ministry to chaplaincy
Yeah,
in a university working with young people.
yeah,
So, I am in a position right now that I'm the young adult director for the conference, and, I that's another thing. Like, I find it amazing how God is wonderful because when I
yeah.
look back, I never planned on working with youth and young adults.
Right.
You know, it was literally God like guiding me. First experience was when I was a missionary in the Amazon. God
Mhm.
introduced me to this wonderful group of young adults, anywhere between
Yeah, Mama
eight.
Chris comes out.
Mama Chris comes out between 18 and 26 was this
Yeah.
group, and they heard my testimony, they heard my story, and then everywhere they would find places for me to preach in the
Mm,
city, and they would follow me. They
mm,
were, I mean, to this day, I think one of my biggest frustrations is that Brazil is so big,
mhm.
and as we mentioned before, we don't make a lot of money. So when I
Yeah,
have money to go see to go to Brazil, I have to go see my family,
and
which is in the south of Brazil, and this was in the north of
yeah,
Brazil.
so to get up there,
So I never saw them again. This was back
uh,
in 2009. We're going to be almost 20 years. And I see
wow.
them on Instagram. By the way, the majority of this time, the social media didn't exist yet. So we
Right.
really lost contact.
Mhm.
But now that social media exists, sometimes I find them and they are
Yeah,
all adults. They got married, they have kids.
right.
And I love those kids so much. I miss them. But that was my first
Mhm.
experience with young people. And then I came to United States when a few years later I went to Southern, and you guys were like my second
Right,
experience.
right, right,
But I
right.
think God was preparing me because,
For yeah.
yeah, because what happens is, I don't know if you know this part or notice this part because, like I said, we never sat down to actually talk.
Right, right,
But my
right.
first few years as a Christian, I was
Mhm,
extremely legalistic.
mhm,
And it was when they say that when you know the truth will set you free.
mhm.
It was actually not only having a superficial understanding of scriptures, but actually
Yeah.
going
Deeper.
get to get my theology degree, to get
Mhm.
seminary degree, that finally I was free from all of those things that were sounded really good, but were
Yeah.
not biblical,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you may not even know this, but the experience that I had with you guys, that group that we studied together, First to Southern,
Mhm.
helped me have so much more mercy and compassion, learn that hold it, it's not
Mm.
because they're acting this way or dressing this way
Right. Right.
that they don't
They're
care
just
about
weird.
God,
Right.
and they're just weird.
Yeah.
Anyways, but that was the beginning of I say that first I was converted into
Yeah.
this box of legalism, then
Mhm.
was actually converted into Christ,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
and you guys were part of this process.
Mm.
It was
Mm.
being around you guys, and different things that happen. I don't think I was ever mean, and God knew my heart, and that's why
Yeah.
he was shaping me. So you guys were part of this. So
Yeah. That's good.
because of all of that and the experience that God put me through, I think it's great that he allowed me to go through that legalistic phase, because
Mhm.
I ended up being part for almost 10 years of a group of people that, I'm not even kidding, I'm going to write a book about that were literally like a cult inside our church. I am not even
Oh,
kidding. And I'm going to
interesting.
write the title of my book is going to be How I Left the Adventist Cult.
How I got out. Yeah.
How I got out.
You would be
And
popular on YouTube. You put a video like that, you get a lot of views. So
I want to make sure they understand the second
yeah,
part
yeah.
of it. But anyways, but what is great is that today I am able to understand that young person that was raised in a house
Mhm.
where there were very strict rules,
Yeah.
which, by the way, I'm not against parents
Correct.
being strict and correcting children.
Correct.
I am not an easy parent still to this day. Okay. I have always been like, okay.
Yeah.
But my point is, there is a point where is too much, and we are hurting our
Mm.
young people,
Yeah.
and we are pushing them away from our churches,
Yeah.
and this is my passion. So today I go, so in my conference we have about 150 churches, between churches and companies,
Wow.
between North and South Carolina, and my department is to equip and train the churches, one, to create a DNA that is welcoming, not to continue losing our young people, and to
Mhm.
bring new young people.
Mhm.
So I basically I'm developing the
That
department,
yeah.
and the reason why I'm doing this is because I wanted to talk to young people, understand your struggles, understand
Yeah.
your life. But you're not only a young person, you're a young adult, but
Mhm.
you also uh, you are also a pastor that will be
Mhm.
ministering to young people. So
Right,
that's
right.
why I wanted to talk to
Yeah,
you.
of
I'm
course.
excited about this,
Yeah.
and just like from your story, from everything that you went through, uh, first let's talk a little bit about the bad, but I want to end
Mhm.
in a positive note. Like,
Okay.
what do you think? Because I don't know how it is where you are,
Mhm.
but in my conference, when you come out of the bigger cities in the smaller towns, when I
Mhm.
go to visit churches, I'm the oldest person there.
Yeah.
So where do you think and I don't even think this is our denomination specific, I think
Yeah.
this is
I think it's across the
Christianity.
board. Yeah.
What do you think we have failed our young people?
Oof, yeah. If you're talking about like in our church denomination per se, or just in Christian church in general?
Honestly, from my experience right now, we can say in general, because this is
Yeah.
happening yes, we have, and I'm going to put a little parenthesis here.
Mhm.
We do have a revival of young people coming
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
to spirituality and faith,
Mhm.
but not specifically churches. So I've been
Right.
reading a lot of researches on it. So
There's
I
a lot
think,
of like I've yeah, like a
yeah,
personal connection, which is good.
mhm,
A
which is good,
personal
and we take
journey,
it. But
but
I
the
am
community aspect isn't as big and yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
let's talk about where we failed, and then we talk about
Yeah.
where we have hope.
Yeah, that's good. I think there's a number of things. I think, for example, just to say one thing about Adventism and then about the church, I think one thing that makes it hard if you've gone to an Adventist university is that you have so many options led by young people or people that are trained as chaplains or leaders or religion teachers, or your teachers are spiritually minded and know how to communicate to young people, that when you leave those spaces, right? We used to like to joke that it's a mecca of Adventism, but the worships programs are great. They're catered to young people. The activities, the events, there's outreach, there's community service, right? Anything you want. There's sport. So there's a lot of access points to community, and a lot of connection points that then you go to a random city in South Carolina or in North Florida, unless you're in a university town, but even then, right, unless you're like in Tampa, Orlando, Miami area, Jacksonville, somewhat, but not as much as those other three, it's hard to find a community of church with vibrant worship, with vibrant pastors that connect. And so one thing I think we do is it's a blessing to be have those programs, but it's also sets them up for, like, you get out there in the middle of Kentucky and you're like, the church here is racist. The church over there doesn't, they have they just use YouTube tracks. I'm used to just an amazing work. And so that's where you want to go to, maybe a different denomination or another church, where other churches really, I think, are doing a great job of vibrant worship and community engagement. And those are things that I think in some of our smaller rural churches, and even some of the larger churches, we are fighting over worship and not engage in our community. And I think a lot of our generation of young people, my generation and younger, they want to be a part of something that matters in this world. And so, on top of that, in the Christian realm, I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot because one, we're not engaging with politics or the world, and two, when we do engage, we are taking the wrong side, or we're being tone deaf, right? Now, it doesn't mean, as you're mentioning, that you don't talk about how complicated I mean, I think every issue is complicated. There's complex, there's nuance, there's context. But if we fail to address things, right, whether it be currently to this day, right, if we go all the way to 2020, right, about COVID, or we talk about the protests that were happening, we talk about things that are happening with ICE right now. These are things that, not I mean, I think now the generations are changing a little bit, because you have a lot of extremism, in a sense, coming. I think there's a space even for young men that we don't have as a church to speaking into. So a lot of men are flocking to alpha male theology, if you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have an extremist there that it's easy to swing into extreme right rhetoric of supremacy. So there's a lot of narratives going out that we as a church haven't been vocal. And I think it's hard as a pastor. I think about it. You're like, I have to figure out, like, right now, right? We're dealing with church with doors not closing. The roof is here. There's these proposition for this has to change, and we have all these members fighting. This ministry we have to sit down with them, the board, and then on top of that, your pastor, you want me to be preaching and trying to navigate my church into being aware about all the isms in the world, and how are we treating these different communities, and I have to be read up on that, and I have to be. So I think as a pastor and
It's
leader,
a
it can be
lot.
overwhelming. But I think one thing we could do better, maybe leaning into that good thing, is
Mm-hmm.
being more humble.
Mm.
I think, and that's something I've tried to do in my ministry, is we, especially our church denomination, and I think most church denominations, but especially ours, we use language that makes us that communicates that our church is closer to truth or reality than any other church,
Mm.
right? And so we have the facts,
The
we
the
have the
spirit
fact
of
checker.
I'm better than thou.
Yeah, and so I get what you say, right? We have a beautiful revelation of God. We have a beautiful revelation through our beliefs as a church of a beautiful picture of God, but many times it's not shown that way. It's more legalistic. But there is this arrogance that comes from that. And I think if we were more humble, people would be like, "Oh, that's interesting," right? And I think there's moments where people, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And so just to be able to say, "I don't know."
I don't know.
The
Yeah,
Bible isn't super clear. Hey, let's bring up the two verses it talks about it. It's not super clear. And I'll tell you what, as a pastor, this is what our church stance is. But I'll tell you right now, it's
mhm.
not extremely clear. And I'm wrestling with it, but it's okay. And I think young people would have,
I
I'm not trying to, I'm not, I'm getting older now, so I'm not as young, but I feel like everyone appreciates genuineness, especially in a world where everyone is a facade, and then becomes popular to be Christian, if or this, that, or it's popular to do this and that. But to just be genuine and just say, hey, I'm trying to live out the principles of Jesus. And that means actually fighting for those that are facing injustices, is speaking up. it's doing this or that, and it may look different for different people in different areas. So I think we have, like I said, things we've done wrong is the way we've portrayed God, what we've been vocal about, what we haven't been vocal about, and also the churches that young people go to, which I think is a double sided, because I can see, hey, if you don't find a community that you feel is working for you, like, create it. But
True.
it's
Mhm.
also putting a lot of pressure on young people. But how can we support maybe local colleges and universities that have like these fellowships of faith to then make their own clubs and do that, right? So I think
Mhm.
it's layered. The Christian idea in especially in the United States right now, I think has been hijacked and politicized, and it's just like we don't really take Jesus's words to be for free. It's just whatever verse we think backs up what we want. So there's a lot of factors, but I think, yeah,
You
those are some
said
of the
so many
main ones.
things that I want to touch on. You said so many
I
things
gotta
that
write. We gotta write a book, I
yeah,
guess.
we
How I
have to write
left.
a book. Yeah, how I left. So first you said
Yeah.
one of the problems is that they go to a very good university. Even
Mm-hmm.
in like in my conference, we have an event that we do once a year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that it's similar to that because there's a one weekend we bring a band and we have the
Right.
lights and we have
Right.
this great
Everything.
speaker, and then they go back to their own churches
Yep.
and it's like crying, crying, crying
Yeah. It's
hymnals and nothing
dead.
else,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But what is interesting, and I agree with you, I think that is part of the problem, and that's why I am. I still think we should have excellent
Yeah. I agree.
ju- just because the
Just because everything else
universities.
sucks doesn't mean we have to have a sucky
Exactly.
program. Yeah,
So
I
no,
agree.
you're gonna have a good program, and
Yeah.
we're gonna
Yeah.
have to do that. But this is where the Growing Young book, which
Mm-hmm.
that's what the training and
Curriculum.
equipping
Yeah.
that I do, it's the Growing Together. That's a rebranding of the
Mm-hmm.
Seventh Adventist Church, but we actually use the Growing Young research as the foundation for what you
Mm-hmm.
do. What he found, and I think that is really the solution for that small church that doesn't have the resources,
Yeah.
for all of the church, to be honest with you, what they found is that even if you don't have the best music, even if you don't have the resources,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if they find something, first of all, if they find something that they believe in, it's what you said, you know, they
Yeah.
want young people wants to belong to something that makes a difference.
Yeah.
And if they find somebody that cares for them, and every time I'm doing a training, I on purpose, I stop and I ask a young person in the auditory,
Do you feel cared
if
for? Yeah.
no, first, if you would go to this church that the music, let's be real, sucks. They
Yeah.
play things that is not relatable, it's not well played, but you know the people love you. Would you stay?
Mm-hmm.
And 100% they
Yeah. I
answer
agree.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we are not known by the verse. Jesus said, "They will know that you are my disciples if you love one another."
Correct.
That's not how we
That's
are
not how
known
people
for.
know us. Yeah.
No.
Agreed.
And I
Agreed.
try to tell them, guys, listen, I have no shame. I love being Adventist. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah. I
study for
agree.
myself. I believe that the doctrines that we believe are 100% biblical.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm very proud of being Adventist.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we are not known by the love that we show to one another. And
Correct.
that is a reality that we have to face.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we don't face it, we're not going to be able to help,
Yeah. And you
you
can't
know?
change
And we
what you
can
don't embrace.
change.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these are just the things that I'm remembering now that you mentioned.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So I think, yeah, there's a lot. So how does that change in the work I'm doing? Well, first, before that, I've noticed in churches, and I agree 100%. I think young people will tell you, hey, obviously it's nice to have the worship and all that, but if I know I belong here, I know I'm cared for, and I know that the place I'm with has a purpose. I think, and again, it's growing young. It's all these the books that we've seen, right? Faith for Exiles and the Barna research that has been done.
Mhm.
But you see, I think as a pastor, you notice it, and I've seen where I've been a part of churches where they are more open to youth leading, but in certain conditions, right? Or if they mess up, that's it, right? Or they'll overstep when we've allowed them to make. So sitting back and watching that, and it's like we
we
say one
have
thing,
we have
but
to
it's
allow them to make mistakes.
correct.
And
Yeah,
I prefer them to make mistakes while they are in the church.
correct.
And some people are like, oh, are you encourage them to sin? Because then they start going, they really want to trap me,
Mm-hmm.
as we're talking.
Right.
And no, I'm not talking about encouraging them to do
To do whatever, just get out there. Right.
immoral sins. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
But if a girl gets pregnant out of wedlock,
Mm-hmm.
a guy is questioning his sexuality,
Mm-hmm.
I still prefer them to have those questions or
To
to
do it here
do
with
it
us.
with
Yeah.
us while we can guide them.
And it's
Um,
yeah, yeah, I agree. And it's very frustrating. I think as pastors, I don't know if you've been in that situation to think that I don't feel safe for you bringing you to my place, right? And that's very heavy.
why do you think I started an online church?
Yeah. And that's what's very frustrating, I think, with pastors. The first words that are woke, but not that are woke, but that are aware and that are um which is pretty much the idea of woke, right? That you're just aware of things that are happening and you're trying to do a different thing, and that's what's a little frustrating to see. But I think that's why I think that's one of the reasons why when there's difficulties and you're like, man, I see friends doing great in other works that have left ministry, you want to stay and say, well, who's going to bring this change and who's going to work to change the culture, right? So that's why I've stayed here. This opportunity, just transitioning there has come up, and one that we every stop we have made, we always look back to see how has God prepared us for this right now in the previous ones, right? And so we look back, and especially this, it was like, man, God has really prepped us in different ways. So I'm excited to step into that role where there is a lot more connection with young people. And I like this conversation because I hadn't really thought about it until you asked about my own faith, but to be able to even unpack my own coming to faith, finding Chantal, finding and then be able to say it was the same time that many of these students are in their life, right?
Oh,
Um,
and one thing that it's
yeah,
one of the things that I wanted to say before, but is related to what you were saying.
yeah.
Uh, it gets to a point in ministry that is
Mm-hmm.
extremely overwhelming.
Yeah,
Like you're saying, you wanted to be able to share your faith, you wanted to be able to reach these young people. And when we look at the massive work that needs to be done, like we need
there's so much.
prepare these churches. We wanted to reach the young people that are outside. We wanted to reach the people that are inside. And we get so overwhelmed because it doesn't matter if I work 24 hours a day, I still not going
Mm-hmm.
to be able to reach and to
Never
make
catching up.
and
Yeah.
never catching up. So I wanted to share with you because I think this will give you hope. When I
Mm-hmm.
was in Amazon, that time that I was as a missionary and I met the
Yeah.
group of young people, the working with these young people was not my job. I went there to be a missionary in the river,
Mm.
to reach the villages that were
Mm-hmm.
remote and didn't have access to medical treatment. I was not a medical. I was just a support person
Right.
for
Right. Right.
the area. But anyways, they lived in such a poverty. They didn't understand even the basics of hygiene.
Mm.
Some of them didn't have running water or toilet,
Right.
you know? So the diseases that they were suffering were things so preventable. And so first was poverty. Second was the parents would sell their own children for trafficking,
Wow.
human trafficking, because they didn't understand exactly what was going to happen to their children. And they thought, oh, if I sell my child, he or she's going to have a better
A
life.
better life from what we have here.
Yes.
Wow.
And drugs,
Wow. Yeah.
and it was so overwhelming because you would talk to one person and you find 10 more. You would talk to another one, you find another 10. And that person that you talked to, it still didn't get it and still let that child
Yeah.
go. I remember one day I just came back into my room and I just lay in bed. But I mean, I plopped myself in bed,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
when you're really disheartened.
Yeah.
And I was like, Lord, it doesn't matter how much I work. I won't even touch like nothing compared to
Mm-hmm.
what it needs to
Mm-hmm.
be done. And God, I don't hear God talking to me all the time. Okay. It's not one of those
Right.
things
Right.
that I have this, uh, I didn't hear audibly, but I felt that in pressure in my head,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in my mind saying, you're not going to be able to change the entire world. but takes care of that person that I put right in front of
Focus
you.
on that one person. Yeah, yeah.
That changed the way that I see ministry.
Mhm.
And as you're going into your new phase, as you're
Mhm.
gonna face these things with young people with so much trouble,
Yeah, yeah.
just hey,
One
we
person at a time. Yeah.
one person at a time, one podcast at a time,
Mhm.
one whatever that we're gonna
Yeah,
be
yeah.
doing, and I think we need to continue. And this is the hope and the note that I want to end with is that I don't know how many people are going to be reached by this podcast. It took
Mhm.
us an hour to be here and talking, but
Right.
if it is 5 people, if it is, how many people it is, we just have to keep going.
Just
And
that one. Yeah, that's
yeah,
good. That's
yeah,
good.
the same thing
Yeah.
for you in your new position,
I appreciate
you
it. Yeah,
know.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
sometimes is frustrating and we feel like forget it, the system is too complicated, this is never going to change, I'm going to give up. We have to remember that this is God's mission before it's
Mhm.
ours, and
Right.
he's just giving us the privilege to serve him.
Yeah, that's good. That's
Well,
good.
this conversation was wonderful.
It was good. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Before we end, there is anything else that you like to share?
Yeah, no, I think that was summarized well. But yeah, I think it's maybe an encouragement for whoever does watch, wherever you are. One, it's okay to question God. You have two pastors here that have done it. We continually do it,
We continue to do it.
and we continue to do it. And it doesn't mean that we're questioning if we believe necessarily that God is, any questioning is right. But we always have God, really now? Why? Even this transition, the timing feels a little off. Work, and it's like, okay, God, we're walking by faith, and
Yeah, I'm
we,
having a bunch of health issues.
yeah. So there's always, I think there's always those elements, and knowing that you're not alone with those faith, no matter how long you've been in church, how active you are in church, we always need to have faith. And so that's one. And then the other one is what you're saying, right? There's just the focusing on one, right? And so sometimes I think I'm not a pastor, so I can't make a big difference. But there are people that whoever's listening, can impact and connect with even more than we can as pastors, because of your work and your connection, that it would take years for us to try to even get to that point. And so focusing on that one person maybe that God has brought around you to connect with, and then to have the discernment, to know what that person needs from you, because then many times it's like, hey, I got to bring this person to church, and it might not even be that. It might be this
Mhm.
just person needs someone that they can talk to and be heard. Okay, so
Talk to
yeah,
them, get to know them
that's it.
without an agenda.
The relationship. Yep.
And let God take you. If it is going to church, do it, but
Yeah.
if it may not be what that
Right.
person needs at that moment,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Thank you so much.
No, thank you,
I'm
Chris.
so
Finally, we
excited
did
that we
it.
finally did it, and I'm really excited. I can't
Yeah.
wait to hear what God is going to do next with
Yeah. Appreciate it.
with all three of you.
Oh my goodness.
Do you
Yeah.
still have 3 dogs?
Two dogs, two dogs.
Two
We had
dogs.
three. One, yeah, our older girl passed away. Yeah, she
Mhm.
was a lot older. She was actually
Okay.
my high school dog, so we
Oh,
adopted her later. She came to
yeah.
Florida to retire, pretty much.
Got it. Well, that's what
But
you
we
do.
have two dogs. Yeah, three of us, so it's five of us. And we're making that trek up in October.
Oh, okay.
So now it's this last month of being at church and finishing up everything here, packing.
And then moving on. Can't wait to hear what is going to be next in your life and your wife and your son. And let's keep in touch and maybe do this again, collab again another time.